Imagine someone who hunted down and imprisoned people for their beliefs becoming their most outstanding advocate. Ben, that's precisely what happened with Paul of Tarsus, and it's still one of history's most dramatic transformations.
You know what's fascinating about that, Pappy? He wasn't just some random persecutor. He had official documents from the highest religious authorities to arrest Christians. That's like having a signed executive order to round people up.
And here's what makes it even more remarkable. This was a guy with serious credentials. He studied under Gamaliel, one of the most respected Jewish scholars of the time, spoke multiple languages, and understood both Jewish law and Greek philosophy. We're talking about the ancient equivalent of an Oxford professor.
That educational background really shows up in his writings. The way he constructs complex theological arguments while weaving in cultural references from different traditions.
Mm-hmm. And then comes this moment on the road to Damascus that changes everything. He's literally on his way to arrest more Christians when he has this extraordinary experience, claims to see a blinding light and hear Jesus speaking to him, goes completely blind for 3 days.
Well, that must have been absolutely terrifying. How do you even process something like that? Everything you've built your life around just shatters.
And here's what's really interesting. Instead of trying to hide his past, he actually used it as part of his message. In his letters, he frequently references his former life as a persecutor. It became this powerful testimony about the possibility of radical change.
Speaking of those letters, 13 of them ended up in the New Testament, right? That's a pretty significant portion of the whole thing.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how he adapted his message for different audiences. When speaking to Jews, he'd reference Hebrew scriptures. With Greeks, he'd quote their poets and philosophers. In Athens, he even used their altar to an unknown god as a conversation starter. Talk about knowing your audience.
That's such an interesting point about cultural adaptation. How did someone go from being a strict Pharisee who wouldn't even eat with Gentiles to becoming this, well, basically this multicultural ambassador?
Well, that transformation didn't come without cost. He faced constant opposition, beaten, stoned, shipwrecked, imprisoned. In one letter, he actually lists out all these hardships, and it reads like an action movie script. 3 shipwrecks, left floating in the open sea for 24 hours, multiple beatings, constant danger from bandits and hostile crowds.
And wasn't he dealing with some chronic health condition too? That mysterious thorn in the flesh he mentions?
Right? And despite all that, he established churches throughout the Roman Empire, mentored numerous leaders, and wrote letters that would shape Western civilization for the next 2,000 years. His ideas about human equality, that whole neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free male nor female thing, were revolutionary for his time.
You know what's really striking? The way he faced his eventual execution. As a Roman citizen, he at least got a quicker death, beheading rather than crucifixion, but he still had to walk through Rome to the execution site as a public spectacle.
And that's what I find most compelling about his story. It's not just about religious conversion, it's about someone who completely reoriented their entire life around new convictions, faced incredible opposition, yet remained committed to their mission until the end. He went from being one of the most privileged members of society to becoming an outcast, and he considered it worth the cost.
That's such a powerful point about conviction and cost. Even in his final letter, he writes with this remarkable sense of peace. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith.
And his influence continues to shape our world today. His writings have influenced not just religious thought, but philosophy, literature, and social movements. That's pretty remarkable for someone who started as a religious zealot and ended up changing the course of history.
So, Pappy, what you're saying is that his real legacy might be this universal message about the possibility of transformation, that no one is beyond change, and that what we're willing to suffer for reveals what we truly value.
Exactly, Ben. In the end, it's a story about the power of conviction to completely reshape not just a single life, but the entire course of human history. Pretty profound for a guy who started on the opposite side of the movement he would eventually die for,